To connect a mobile phone to the Soundcraft mixer, go to your network settings and select the Soundcraft network. Once that's connected, then open your browser and type into your browser 10.10.1.1. This will take you to the Soundcraft UI page, and then select the smaller of the two displays because you're using a small display on a mobile phone. This will take you straight into the mixer settings, and you have full control over each fader using your mobile phone. To access the Soundcraft UI mixer on a laptop, open a browser. I'm using a Mac here, so I use Safari, but you could be using Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Google, whatever browser you like, as long as you've got an internet connection. Go to your Wi-Fi settings, and you probably on your own church or home Wi-Fi, move away for that and select the Soundcraft UI. Here I've got a Ui12, but it could be a 12 or 16, so select the Wi-Fi for Soundcraft, and then we'll just wait for that to connect. Once that's connected, then into the browser bar you can type the address for the mixer, which is 10.10.1.1, and then it'll ask what size display you're operating on. So if you're using an iPhone, select the or an Android phone, select the smaller screen. But if you're using a tablet or a laptop, as we are now, select the larger display. And then here we are, we've got a whole mixer selected. So this one's been set up for a church before, so we've got wireless microphones, handheld 1, handheld 2, belt pack 3, belt pack 4 and belt pack 5, and then we've got HDMI because we've got a video system as well on this one, so we've got HDMI on 9 and 10. So then if I want to make adjustments to the handheld, I can move the fader up or down, and I can also mute that channel if I wanted, or indeed I could make it a solo so that channel comes out on top of everything else, but we wouldn't normally use that in our setting. But you might want to use mutes, or just turn it down or turn it up, and you can do that on any channel you like. The master controller is over here, so that turns everything up and down, whereas these faders over here turn each individual input up and down. Now if we want to change the tone or parameters of a microphone or indeed an instrument, then we would select that channel that we're connected to. So I'm going to use handheld 1 at the moment, and we can go, the orange button here is the mix or gain. So when it's orange, it's mix, so that's a fader as you would normally recognize it on an analog mixer, the fader at the bottom, but you can change it to gain. In the gain section, with the red control here, in the gain section you've got some controls here, which we can adjust the gain here, and it tells us at the top what the dB level is. Some microphones or DI boxes, particularly gooseneck microphones for lecterns and pulpits, they will require a 48 volt power supply down the microphone cable, and also a DI box, which will be used for a guitar or a keyboard, will need a 48 volts. So we need to press that button there. and that tells us that we're now putting power down the microphone line. We don't want to be putting power down microphone lines for everything because it can damage some microphones. So this is how much signal comes into the desk. So you might have a microphone that's a very low output, and in that case we'd need to turn the gain up, or if it's a very high output we'd need to turn the gain down. But of course then that affects, if it's coming in high, then the fader would need to be down here. So the best way of doing it is to select the gain fader at a position where, when that microphone is in use, we've got a nice span on the mix fader. If the gain is too high, we'll be operating the mix fader down here and it's quite difficult to adjust. Or if the gain fader is too low, then we'd always be needing to use the mix fader up at the top, and if we were to turn it down here it would be very quiet. So what you do on your gain fader affects what happens on your mix fader. So one thing I will point out is just make sure that when you're in normal use, this button here is on orange, so we're operating the mix, which is the output of the channel, not the gain, which is the input of the channel. And then when we've got the gain right, we can then edit the channel, and we don't need any effects most normally, but EQ is something we will want to be adjusting. So here we've got a high pass filter, so that takes off any bass of the microphone. So if it's a speech microphone, we wouldn't want anything lower than about 150 or 200 hertz, because nobody speaks down at that level, but it will stop any bangs and pops happening, stage rumble from going up a mic stand or anything like that. So if it's a speech microphone, take the low frequency off. If it's an instrument, particularly a guitar or a keyboard, you won't want that. You won't want that high pass filter on, so just wipe it out. But if we want to hear more treble, then we can lift up the treble end, or indeed we can put a low pass filter on there as well. We could lift it up there. But you may find that it sounds a little bit boxy, so we could just bring the mid-range down, or if you want it to sound a bit more bassy, we can do that as well. So we can give it more body to the sound. Now, when you lift on some microphones, depending on your building and on the microphone and the position it's being used in, when we increase the fader, we might get feedback. So what we can do there is listen out for that feedback, and we can grab one of these dots and we can pull it down, and then we can move it around until that feedback stops. So you'll see here that the frequencies are marked across the bottom: 100 Hz, 200 Hz, 500 Hz, 1K, 2K, 5K, 10K, and so on. So we can move that dot around. Quite often in a church style building, the feedback's around about 1K, so you might want to pull a dip down there. But here we've got quite a big dip in the sound, so we not only losing that 1K, but we're losing everything either side of it. So then what we could do is adjust the Q level, and then if we take the Q up there, look, we've only got that 1K out, and we can quite easily just take that resonance off, just to remove the feedback, but without removing the other frequencies that we still need. Now we move on to the gate section, and this is where we can make a microphone switch on only when it's required, or only when somebody goes up to speak at that microphone or sing into that microphone. So we'd use this if there's quite a lot of background noise. Perhaps you've got traffic noise outside a window near a lectern, or you've got a lectern where not far from it there's a choir or a children's corner. You don't want that microphone on picking up the background noise, but when somebody walks up to the lectern, you want that that microphone to be active. So we go to the gate section here. Make sure you're operating on the right channel, of course. We're still doing handheld 1. So we can pick up the dot here and we can move this gate. So I'm using the microphone now quite quietly, and you'll see that I've got a signal here, but there's nothing happening on the channel. We're not opening this gate. The dot here is indicating the gate, but we're not opening the gate. Actually, I can make it a bit higher. We're not opening this gate here while I'm just speaking quietly. So while there's noise happening, for example, behind the lectern in the children's corner or whatever. But when somebody walks up to the lectern and speaks, then that microphone switches on. And now pull that gate down. So then when somebody's speaking at that microphone, it's acting quite normally and coming on as they speak. But then when the person walks away from the microphone, it's not working at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But as I'm close to that microphone, it's on. So that's how we set gates. Now let's have a look at compressor. So a compressor is where we would want the system to well, compress the sound. So we don't want it, when somebody shouts into a microphone, we don't want that sound to just increase. We want it to be capped off at a level. So we bring the threshold down and we'd bring the ratio down. So then I've still got this gate on here, so let me just remove this gate. Okay, so now we're just looking at the compressor. So now we're talking normally and everything's happening absolutely normally. But then when I speak loudly, you can see here that the compressor is activating and the sound is never going to get higher than this point here because the compressor is keeping it down. So no matter how loud I shout into this microphone, we don't get the sound any louder than this level here. So this stops just when people hold a microphone close to their mouth and shout into it or sing into it. It just keeps that level controllable for you, so it's not over loud. There is effects sends on this system. You can find more out about effects send at the Soundcraft website, but I won't go into that now unless I get a particular request to set up effects, then I can run through it. But in this basic demonstration, I'm not going to go through effects sends. Move along to the auxiliary sends. Don't forget we're still looking at handheld 1. We've still got handheld 1 selected in the left hand side here, and that's telling us which auxiliary outputs that channel is going to. So that channel is only going to the stream output for the video streaming and also to the induction loop output. It's not being sent to the subwoofer because we don't need a handheld microphone going to the speaker that provides extra bass. So we're just going to the stream and to the loop. Now if we go to the mix and gain page again, where we can see all of our input channels, then we can go to auxiliary sends and we can see which of our inputs are going out to which of our outputs. So here we're looking at the stream output to the video streaming. If this church was streaming to YouTube, then we can see that all the speech microphones are going to the stream, and the HDMI input. And also here we have an ambience microphone, a choir microphone, and then we have a CD player as well. So all those are going out to the video stream, and it's probably the same on the induction loop as well. Lot. So we've got some buttons here, so it's either post or pre. So if it's a pre-fader, this fader acts on its own. If it's post, this will act the same as you've got it set in the church. So if you turn the CD player down on its main mix, then it will also turn down on the stream. But if it's a pre here, then whatever you do with the fader in the church, it doesn't make any effect to the output on the stream. For this reason, the reason it's been set up like this on here is because in the main church, the choir microphones aren't being fed through to the speakers in the main church, they're only being fed through to the stream. So we want those to be independent, whereas you want to, your CD player, you want to turn it up and down and hear what it does in the church and have the same effect on the stream. When you are happy with all your settings, then you can go to you can save that. So then you go to the settings tab here, you go to shows, and then we can save a new. So the show is how the system is set up for the church, but a snapshot is like a scene really, as you would like it for one individual service. So then we can either click on one that's already been saved, and we can then press save, and we want to save it again as default, and we want to replace the default, so we can save that. Or we could save another one, and I'll just call this Sunday, and we're going to save that. So now we've got two saved scenes. One could be different to the other. You might have one which is a default for, let's say, a standard Sunday service, but you might have one that's for a midweek service or something like that, and when there's not many people in the building. You might have one for let's say Christmas Eve, when the place is absolutely packed, so you want everything turned up slightly. So all you need to do is just you could then load, if we go back to default, we could load default. Okay, so just to recall a scene, we don't need to go into the settings. We can just click on this screen here. As you see, it says default. We could click on that, then press, then double click Sunday, and it'll go to Sunday. So it will change the it will change the scene there for us. So it's quite easy to go between presets.